I'm Teresa. I'm the author of Cupcakes and Couscous, available at Wordsworth Books. I'm a content creator, food blogger, and mom of two. I'm looking forward to showing you two of my favorite recipes today. So we're going to start with a lamb curry served with fennel seed flatbreads. So we're going to start off by making our flatbreads, just a basic flour and milk dough. And then we're going to be making our lamb curry with loads of spices, onion, garlic, ginger, and tomato puree. So we're going to start by making the fennel seed flatbreads. These are very, very easy and use ingredients that you'll have probably in your cupboard already. So I've got some cake flour in the bowl. I'm going to add some baking powder and salt and some whole fennel seeds. These add a delicious flavor to the bread, and just mix those together. Then I'm going to add some olive oil and some milk. And we're going to stir that into a dough. You can definitely substitute the milk. So if you wanted to add something like a coconut milk for a vegan flatbread, or if you were lactose intolerant, that would work really well. I've done that before. So you're going to keep mixing until it comes together into a dough. That's looking good. Okay, so our dough has come together nicely. I'm going to cover that and let it rest while I start the curry. So we're going to be using lamb neck today and lamb knuckles, and I'm going to season with a bit of salt and pepper before it goes into the pot. We're using quite a large variety today. We've got garlic and ginger, and then we've got cumin, coriander, garam masala, paprika, turmeric, cardamom, and cayenne pepper. So quite a big collection, but it's going to taste really, really good. It's going to be fantastic. Okay, so now we're going to brown our meat in a little bit of olive oil. This is just our lamb that we've seasoned with salt and pepper. So I love this curry because it's actually pretty quick to make. It only simmers for 30 minutes. So I often make it during the week as a weeknight supper for my whole family. The kids love it as well. But it also makes a wonderful date night meal if you fancy doing that. And with the flatbreads, it's very, very special. If you find it easier, you can brown the lamb in batches. This is definitely something that anyone can make. There's no technical skills required. You're just putting everything in the pot, mixing it together and letting it simmer, so anyone can make this. I'll do the second batch quickly. You want to probably brown the lamb over a high heat, and then once we add the spices just now, we'll turn the heat down. So this serves a family of four. For four of us at home, it's more than enough, and there's usually leftovers for lunch the next day. So it would definitely work for a family. Very often, if we have friends over for lunch or a bride, then I'll test some of my new recipes and ask them to give me feedback. So finding people to taste things is not usually a problem. I have a very sweet tooth, but funnily enough, the savory recipes are actually my favorites in the book. I absolutely love the potato bake with parmesan and bacon crumble. It's incredible. The moussaka is absolutely delicious. And if I had to choose a sweet recipe, I would say probably the lemon tart. I love anything citrusy. So yeah, if I had to choose, I would say those are my favorites. There we go, all done. So now we're going to do our sauce. So I'm going to put some butter in the pot with onions and spices. So I've taken the lamb out of the pot. We can use the same pot now. We're going to add some butter and just melt that over a medium heat. We don't want to lose all those beautiful flavors from the lamb that are stuck to the pot. And then we're going to add some diced onion. You can substitute, I like white in this recipe, but if red is the only thing you have in your pantry, that's absolutely fine, throw it in. And we're going to let those cook over a medium heat for a few minutes just to soften. So we're using lots of delicious flavors in this curry. We've got fresh garlic and ginger. We also have garam masala, turmeric, cumin, cayenne pepper, coriander, paprika, and ground cardamom. But I always encourage people to play with their food. For example, I've only added a little bit of cayenne pepper to this curry, but if you liked it really hot, you could definitely add more. If there was a particular spice that you really enjoyed, you could definitely play around with it. So have fun, play with your food. I've just given the measurements just as a guideline for people who've never made curry before, who aren't quite sure how much to add. So our onions are beautiful and soft. I'm going to add all of our spices into the pot. And we're going to let these cook for about a minute just to start releasing their flavors. Okay, so now we're going to add some stock into the pot. You can add lamb stock or chicken stock. Also going to add some tomato puree. Give that a mix. And then our lamb is going to go back into the pot. There we go. So pop that all in, and you can let that simmer for approximately 30 minutes until the sauce thickens. So while the curry is simmering, we're going to move on to our flatbreads. Our dough has been resting, it's nice and soft, and we can roll these out. I'm going to divide the dough into 8 equal portions, and you can just eyeball it, it doesn't have to be exact. And you're going to just roll them into little balls. This is definitely the part of the recipe where you can bring the kids in, get them to roll the balls, roll the dough. They can even make it from scratch. Okay, so we've got all our little dough balls, and now we are ready to roll. So dust your work surface with a little bit of cake flour, and then you can take the balls one at a time and you just roll them out to a thickness of about 3 millimeters. And you're aiming for a rough rectangle shape, but these are very rustic, so they don't need to be neat, which is quite nice. And there we go, that's ready for the frying pan. If you can get some little helpers to help you with this step, that's really great. So this recipe will make 8 flatbreads. So for a family of 4, that's 2 per person. You could definitely double the recipe as well. So if you wanted to have extras or you're having extra people over, you could easily double it and make whatever you needed. And those are our flatbreads ready for the pan. So I'll let this get warm and then I'll start cooking. So I've heated our dry frying pan over a medium heat, and I'm going to add the flatbreads. So you'll cook these for about 3 minutes per side, but just keep an eye on them. They'll go golden brown on the outside, then you can flip them over, cook the other side, and once they're all cooked through, you take them off the heat. So when we lived in London, we had this amazing curry house just down the road from our flat. And for 2 South Africans far from home in the cold English winter, it was such a comfort to get this beautiful curry from this place. So I always used to get the chicken tikka masala with the most buttery, soft naan bread I've ever eaten in my life. It was so delicious. My husband would always get something a little bit spicier, and we would often enjoy this takeaway. So every time I make curry, I often think back to that time. And I'm happy to say the restaurant is still there and still doing well. I'm not too surprised. So you can see these are browning really nicely and cooking through. So what you could do is use a gluten-free flour mix, just replace the cake flour. But if you wanted to skip the flatbreads altogether, you could just add something like rice, and that would work beautifully with the curry as well. So once your flatbreads are cooked, you can wrap them in a cloth, and that helps them to keep nice and soft and warm while you cook the rest of them. So I'm a working mom, and for me, I'm always looking for new meal ideas, snack options, things like that, but food that is easy to prepare, accessible, and tastes really good so the whole family will eat it. So I really kept that in mind while I was trying to develop the recipes. I've also tried to include quite a mix, so there's meat dishes, vegetarian options, there are decadent treats for special occasions, there are healthier, more wholesome options for the family. So it really is a mix of everything that I like to cook for my own family. I did a lot of baking during COVID, mostly cookies. So there are, I think it's the hazelnut cookies I started making during lockdown. Everyone else was doing banana bread, I was making cookies. We cooked a lot of bread during lockdown. We made it from scratch. It was such a great activity for the kids. And so that also inspired some of the bread recipes in the book. My daughter is 11 years old, and she takes the book and she's already baked quite a few things from it. Some of the recipes would require adult supervision, but definitely for the tweens and older, they could certainly grab the book and make something by themselves. So in this book, I've actually devoted an entire chapter to braai recipes. So that would definitely be my go-to when the power was out. There's lots of fantastic options and some veggie dishes as well. Everything in that chapter can also be cooked in the stove, on the stove or in the oven if the power was on. Otherwise, the stovetop dishes like this curry are perfect for load shedding.
There's another great recipe I saw in your book. It's called a 10-shade garlic bread, which myself and my colleague absolutely loves. Tell us a little bit more about that. Is it quite an easy recipe to put together?
It is. It looks a little bit complicated, but we have done step-by-step photographs to show you exactly how to assemble it. For us, a garlic bread at a braai is an absolute must, but I wanted to give it a little twist and do something different for the book. So we've added lots of cheese, we've added sun-dried tomatoes, and of course garlic. And then it's shaped into a star shape. It's really, really beautiful and easy for people to just break off, pull apart, and enjoy with their main meal.
Sorry, I'm busy paging through your book. So, there's a rooster cook that you mentioned that you apparently had at a wedding.
Yes, that's right.
And they were dishing it up for basically serving it fresh on the fire. Tell us a bit more about that though, because that looks super interesting.
It's such a delicious recipe, and it was definitely inspired by that wedding. You know how it is when you go to a wedding and you have the ceremony, and then you usually have to wait quite a long time for the photographs to happen and for the bride and groom to do their thing. And so it was such welcome sustenance when this fresh roaster cook came off the braai and we were all tucking in. So I definitely wanted to include it in the book. You can serve it as a starter with different side dishes or sauces, or you can have it with your main meal. It's so soft and beautiful, and I would definitely recommend trying that one at your next braai.
So I just paged over to page 152, which I think is probably one of my favorites. After the sweet tooth. It's called Chocolate and Bubbly Mousse.
Yes.
And I'm very happy to see that you actually do put in sparkling wine. Tell me more about that though, because that looks amazing.
That's a real decadent treat, and that's actually one of my favorite images in the book. It's absolutely beautiful. But if you're having a special occasion and you feel like a chocolate mousse, but something a little bit special, you can have this one, which includes sparkling wine. It just adds a little bit of depth of flavor. It's creamy, it's soft, it's just an absolutely beautiful dish that you can make. Good for celebrations. Our curry has been simmering for half an hour, so now I'm going to add a little bit of plain yogurt. Mix that all together. And don't forget at this point to check your seasoning as well. This is smelling absolutely amazing. You can dish it up onto your plates. If you can hold back and save it for the next day, you will be rewarded with amazing flavor. So I like to finish off my curries with a little bit of coriander. I know not everyone likes it, but I absolutely love it. So if you do, you can just chop it up roughly and sprinkle it over the top. Serve the curry with your fresh, warm flatbreads. These are great for mopping up all of that delicious sauce. And that's how you make the delicious lamb curry. It's in the supper chapter of the book, Cupcakes and Couscous, which is available at Wordsworth Books.